Hey, welcome back to the third season cooking, folks. My goodness. Much to explain. First off, Trinidad and Tobago Zaya rum with coconut water. It's got to be good for you. It's got coconut water in it. All right. So in October, I had a hernia surgery, and that kind of put me behind the eight ball for a number of days. So, oopsies. But I'm back here. Here we go. I had a special request from somebody to do rice. And then on Reddit, I think I was reading somewhere where somebody said, hey, why don't people just make rice in a pot rather than a rice machine? And I went, yeah, why don't they? And because I always do. So what I wanted to show you was how to make rice in a pot. This is how I make rice 2 or 3 times a week in a pot, and this is how I do it. Now I'm going to try and keep my machine on here, so because if I lift the pot off, the induction stovetop stops and it doesn't work. So behind us, and I'm hoping to time this so the magic of television, it works so that that's ready at the same time as this one. Behind me is a small 1/3 of a cup portion of rice. This is what I normally make, which is a cup of rice. This is Basmati rice, Satara, nothing special, just a basic bag of Basmati. I put a little bit of salt into the rice. Now, there are folks who like to wash their rice, have at her. There are folks who, I've seen ways of cooking rice where you make it with a ton of water and just pour the water off when it's done, have at her. This is how I do it. I basically toast the rice on the stovetop for a couple, 3 minutes. And in that couple, 3 minutes, again, the rice sort of toasts up. And that helps break down some of the starches, I guess. I'm not sure. It just works. This is how it works for me. And what I'm going to do is, rice is really simple. 1 part rice, 2 parts water. That's for most kinds of rice. So Basmati rice, which is this kind, like a short grain rice that you might use for making sushi. I had somebody else ask me about doing poke bowls. I'm looking into that because I've only had 1 poke bowl ever, and it was fun. But I need to look into it a bit more before I do it. If you can hear that little bit of sizzle, that tells you the rice has been toasting just long enough. If you don't hear that sizzle, it's okay. No big deal. What happens here is I use the same container that I measure the rice to measure the water. And that way I get a nice 2 to 1. Then you give it a bit of a stir and you cover. What happens by covering it is it cooks faster. On the induction stovetop, it's going to cook faster. And what you want to do is wait till the water and the rice boil, and then you put it onto a different element at a much lower temperature. So this is going to probably speed up a little bit, especially since I just turned it up a touch. And away we go. So what's going to happen is this is going to come up really nice and wonderful. It's going to boil. We're going to move it back over. By the time we move it back over, 3 minutes on that back one, it's going to go nicely. Now here's the scary part. With the induction oven, it's only been about a minute or so, and you can just start to see bubbling happen. So we'll deal with that. One of the great things about having a bunch of time away when you're kind of recovering from something is you end up watching a lot of YouTube. And I've heard all kinds of other ways of saying it other than this way. If you're liking what you're seeing, please like, subscribe. Welcome back to my members. Welcome back to people that my members are going to send this to other people. Well, there's an idea. Share this. Because rice is one of those things that's, can be used in so many different ways, but you got to cook it. And rice can be tricky for some people. I've talked to different folks about cooking different things, and rice is always one of those things that's like, why is it so difficult? It's really not that hard. But it's rice, and it's a staple. So, and also leave your comments. Ooh, ready? Tell me where you're watching from. How about that one? Man, I tell you, there's so much AI slop out there that I'm a real person. This is a real kitchen. It's being recorded by my real world wife. And, this is life. This is just the way we're going to do it. We're going to have a stir fry later with this because we're going to have lots of rice. Because this rice is predominantly made for our dogs who are both sleeping, and I can't bring them out because that would probably help the algorithm if I showed some greyhounds on screen, but they're both dead asleep, so I won't deal with that. But anyways, and so, A real person. Yay! And as we're getting very close, I can start seeing little bubbles. And away we go. And we're down to 1 minute back there. Excellent. I'm guessing by the time that 1 minute is up, this will be boiling. At least it's looking pretty close to it. The best part about rice is it tolerates whoopsies. If it's not boiling completely, you can still cook it up. If you're using 1/3 of a cup versus a cup, it still takes 22 minutes on the stove. That's the third part. After the toasting, the boiling, we put it over onto a low temperature for 22 minutes. That's what I found works best with basmati. That's what I found works best with short grain rices as well, like jasmine. And I've got a Cali rice that I use for if I want to try and make something, like a Mexican rice. Ooh, listen to that. That tells us this is ready. I'm just going to pull it off. I'm going to leave the oven or the stove on its my tick number 2 out of 8 with a low and a high, because I don't want it to cook too fast. This is now boiling. So if the camera comes up a bit, you can see how it's boiling. We're just going to give that a stir. We're going to cover it up. It's going to go back onto the stove. I'm going to hit the timer for 22 minutes. And especially with rice, I think it's important to always put the timer on, because it's easy to not keep track of it. And we're going to lift the lid off. And now we're going to stir this around a bit. And I'm just going to do this real quick, just to make this easier. How did it turn out? Well, it might be it might need just a titch more time. What I often do is I just leave this with the lid on, and whatever little moisture that's available will just get absorbed back into the rice. And let's do a little taste test, because it's rice, so it's not going to be like, ooh, magic. It's just going to be rice. That has a nice bite. It tastes remarkably like rice. So here's the beautiful thing. I'm going to cover it up. And again, just let it absorb in some water. And away it goes. Third season kitchen. Third season cooking. Third season of life. Changing in life. Chances are you've had somebody make rice for you your entire life. Maybe. Or maybe you just want to learn how to make rice. The beautiful thing about the third season kitchen is that we learn how to make basic stuff, and we also make special stuff. Rice is about basic as you can get. And if you make it well, it's the base unit of some really yummy dishes, from stir fries to the centerpiece in a curry and all kinds of stuff. I appreciate you being here. Thanks so much for checking back in. I know it's been a while. I got to tell you, man, hernia surgery was more interesting than I expected it to be. But we're back. Little rumski coconut water skis. And I wish you all the very best. We will try and get at least one more episode in before Christmas. But if we don't, here's to a very happy holiday season, happy Christmas, and all the best for 2026. Wowzers! Going to be an exciting new year. Cheers.